Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1864B, and today's date is May 10th, 2019, and the title of the episode is New Report Sparks Panic. This is how you know the hammer is about to drop. Now, before I get started, I wanted to talk about the threats nowadays in America, especially with the caravans bombarding the border. One of the best things you can invest in for your home protection is a Patriot flashlight. And why not purchase one of the best flashlights on the market? It has life-saving emergency strobe lights. You can charge your phone anywhere, anytime, with a USB port. Other features include compass, rope, wire cutter, solar-powered recharging, high and low beam LED modes, glass-breaking hammer. Limited supplies last, and this is the very last chance you can get yours at a discount before they sell out. Purchase the best flashlight on the market and get 20% off when you use the code X20. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Well, everyone, it has begun. The mainstream media, the deep state, they are now trying to get ahead of what is coming. They are panicking. Why are they panicking? They're panicking because of what has come out recently. And they're getting very nervous because they know that something is about to drop. And we'll be talking about that in just a minute. But first, let's look at how the mainstream media is out there and the deep state and how they're trying to get ahead of all this. Alexander Downer, he is defending his FBI tip-off that sparked the Trump-Russia probe. And he's out there saying, I don't know what Papadopoulos is talking about. I know what I said. I know what happened, and he's trying to make it seem like he's right and George Papadopoulos is wrong. And he's trying to explain why it was okay to start the investigations with the information that they had. We had James Comey, who was on CNN Town Hall and said the text messages between former FBI agent Peter Strzok and Page, well, it looks bad for the agency and something should have been done. And Comey saying, listen, the FBI doesn't spy. They investigate. We did everything on the up and up. They're trying to get ahead of what is coming. This is why Comey's making the rounds right now. This is why he wrote an op-ed. This is why he's out there on CNN and radio stations. He's trying to get ahead of what is coming because he knows it's going to be very, very damaging to him. Trump tweeted out the following: James Comey is a disgrace to the FBI and will go down as the worst dictator in its long and once proud history. He brought the FBI down. Almost all Republicans and Democrats thought he should be fired, but the FBI will regain greatness because of the great men and women who work there. And yes, it's going to be very tough for the FBI. We see Jim Baker, the former FBI general counsel. He appeared on the Brookings Institution show, and he was explaining how everyone that worked on the Trump-Russia investigation was legitimately predicated. So he's trying to push out there that everything that they did was on the up and up. He's also going to appear on the Rachel Maddow show on MSNBC. This is called projecting. This is called, let's get ahead of what is coming out because it's going to be very damaging. Now, we all thought that Mueller was going to testify in front of the House Judiciary Committee on May 15th. Now it turns out that Mueller will not testify next week at all. Does he know when he's going to testify? No, they're negotiating right now. And I don't think they really want him to testify because I think it's not going to go in the way that they want. I mean, think about it. Is Mueller going to go against the report that he wrote? Well, we know he didn't really actually write it, but his name is on it. No, he's not going to do this. He's not going to give them the redacted information because then he would be in trouble. And it looks like they're trying to make excuses of why he's not showing that. Now, maybe he will, but it's very interesting how he's not going to testify on the 15th. Now, why are all these individuals, why are they so afraid? Why are they panicking? Why is panic sweeping D.C. right now? Well, Mark Meadows explains why they're trying to get ahead of what is coming. He said there was a newly uncovered document which suggests that the Obama Department of Justice, including the FBI, was well aware that foreign agent Christopher Steele was trying to interfere in the 2016 presidential election with disinformation, and yet still used his materials to spy on American citizens and the Trump campaign. He continues, officials at the FBI and Department of Justice were all well aware the dossier was a lie, from very early on in the process all the way to when they made the conscious decision to include it in the FISA application. The fact that Christopher Steele and his partisan research document were treated in any way seriously by our intelligence community leaders amounts to malpractice. Why did Meadows make this statement? Well, it's in response to the federal document recently unveiled by a Citizens United lawsuit. An email from Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Kathleen Kavalak, who met with Steele in October 2016 and recounted his desire to spread the allegations of his since-debunked dossier on then-candidate Donald Trump. Now, this memo is the latest piece of evidence suggesting the FBI spied on American citizens for partisan political purposes. James Comey has admitted he knew Democrats were funding Steele and Fusion GPS's work before there were any court filings, but withheld this information from the FISA application and from the intelligence briefing with President-elect Trump. 2 senators have recommended Steele for criminal investigation, alleging that he lied to the FBI according to a 2018 Senate Judiciary Committee memo. Remember, this started on a fake dossier, and they all knew it was fake. This is the basis of the entire case, where they all knew that it was fake, and they were using something that was fake to get the warrants. Forget about Page and Strzok and all that other stuff, where they're texting back and forth and they wanted to get rid of Trump. Yes, that's important, but the basis of this entire investigation of Russian collusion is based on something that wasn't real. And once the investigators show that they all knew that it wasn't real, and they knew it was fake, and they knew who paid for it, and they knew that if they presented it to the judges, they would not get their warrant, this is how they're going to get them. Because that means they knowingly used something that was fake to get the warrants, which is completely illegal. And everything after that is just icing on the cake. And this is what they're going for. This is why they're continually pushing out all this different information showing that they all knew it was fake before they even went to the court. But they withheld that information. Sarah Carter tweeted out the following. Reminder, this is going to weigh heavy on the FBI. These docs reveal so much and put quite a few senior FBI officials involved in legal jeopardy. And it does. They're all going to be in legal jeopardy. They know this. This is why they're out there making the rounds. They're trying to head this off. It's impossible to do. They could try, but it's not going to work. Now, Giuliani's taken this a step further. He's going out to Ukraine to talk to the Ukrainians, actually to meet with Zelensky, who's supposed to be taking office on June 3rd, to continue with the investigation into Clinton, Biden, and the rest. Because Trump and Giuliani, Department of Justice, they're interested in that information. They tried to hand this off to the previous Department of Justices, but they didn't want it. But guess what? We want it now. And they're going to finish their whole investigation, and they're going to be handing this off to show how Biden, Clinton, hooked to Obama, how it was all corrupt. I mean, the walls are closing in on them. They don't have their blocks anymore. They're completely wide open. And this is why they're panicking. There's a new report out there that revealed that Hillary Clinton and several Democrat candidates accepted thousands of dollars in donations from NXIVM's sex slave cult. And we need to remember something very, very important. Q has been telling us that Rachel Handler and Epstein Island is 100 times worse than Nexium. But the court documents filed by the U.S. Attorney's Office prior to the trial detail how multiple members of the cult, including all 5 of the defendants who were indicted in the case, exceeded the legal limit for campaign donations when giving money to Clinton's first campaign for president. That motion, which sought to have evidence admitted to the case to support the racketeering allegations against the defendants, said that the funds were donated in hope of gaining influence over Clinton. Witness testimony, corroborated by documentary evidence, will demonstrate that at least 14 members of the Nexium community, including at least 5 defendants and co-conspirators, made the maximum campaign donations to a primary campaign with the understanding that they would be reimbursed by Bronfman or Nancy Salzman. So it looks like they all knew about this. And it looks like they understood what was supposed to happen, and we'll have to see how this all plays out. And we see a sealed indictment was unsealed, and we see a former Disney executive has been convicted of sexual abusing a 7-year-old girl. I mean, I noticed that these sealed indictments, some of them are being unsealed now for all different reasons. Like, for example, federal prosecutors will bring charges against Prince Michel, a rapper for the hip-hop group The Fugees, for campaign finance violations pertaining to donations to a super PAC that supported former President Obama's re-election campaign. Now, the Justice Department will accuse him of funneling money to the pro-Obama groups without disclosing the foreign origins of the money, which is said to be tied to Joe Low, a Malaysian businessman. And Low's whereabouts, they're unknown right now. 1MDB was established to promote economic development in Malaysia, but U.S. prosecutors say Low used it as a personal slush fund to influence government officials. Now, this was just put out there, and Obama just finished saying there was nothing in his entire campaign. And I believe what they're doing right now is they're letting this information out very slowly because we keep seeing things happen with Obama, and they're getting the people warmed up to show that, yes, there was corruption that had to do with Obama, and I believe this is being done on purpose right now. Now, in the past, we've talked about how the government creates bills, which mean the opposite. They do this on purpose to make it seem like you're against something that is good, like the Patriot Act. Oh, you're not a patriot? You don't want a Patriot Act? Oh, you don't want the Affordable Care Act because you don't want cheap insurance? And this goes on and on and on. Dan Crenshaw is out there and he's saying, listen, there's a new bill out there. It's called Pre-Existing Bill. And of course, they put these titles on it to make you think like, hey, if you vote against it, you're against pre-existing medical conditions. Now, I've always said this in the past, these titles actually mean the opposite. They're not a benefit to the people. They never were. And Representative Dan Crenshaw, he explains this. Take a listen to what he said.
Okay, another day in Washington, and you have to hear this one. Let me show you what we're voting on today. This bill is called Protecting Americans with Pre-Existing Conditions Act of 2019. Not too bad. We all agree we should protect Americans with pre-existing conditions. But is that what this bill is really about? Let's read the text. It's not that long. Beginning April 1st, the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Secretary of Treasury may not take any action to implement, enforce, or otherwise give effect to the guidance entitled State Relief and Empowerment Waivers. And the secretaries may not promulgate any substantially similar guidance or rule. Okay, from the text, you can tell that it has nothing to do with pre-existing conditions. So what does this have to do with? What they're referring to are 1332 waivers. What are 1332 waivers? These are basically innovation waivers allowed under the ACA. A lot of states have used them so far. States like Maryland, Oregon, Maine, Alaska, they use them for reinsurance programs, because what we found out was that reinsurance programs are a much more efficient way to protect people with pre-existing conditions. Obamacare requires that you protect pre-existing conditions via the exchanges. Okay, well, when you do that, premiums rise for everybody. That's why all of these states have actually changed their programs, and they've innovated. The Trump administration saw this, and they said, why don't we make it even more flexible for states? Why don't we give states even more flexibility to both protect people with pre-existing conditions, but do it in a way that doesn't raise everybody's premiums? So then you got to ask yourself, why is this bill called the Protection for the People with Pre-Existing Conditions Act? Because this is the height of cynicism. This is the height of political cynicism. Democrats are trying to get people to think that we as Republicans are voting against this because they're trying to get people to think that we're against protection for pre-existing conditions. That's not true at all. We're against bad policy. And this is both bad policy and political cynicism. It's a lie, it's dishonest, and it's really sad to see. So share this video, tell everybody the truth. We are not voting against protection for pre-existing conditions.
And as you can see, that these bills that they continually push out there with all the gun controls for your safety, with the Affordable Care Act, the Patriot Act, the U.S. Freedom Act, all these titles are absolutely meaningless. Congress, the good people in Congress, they need to start reading these. And once they start to read them, they will understand that, hey, the title is meaningless, and we need to get more and more good people in government to stop this. Now, it looks like Florida Governor DeSantis signed the bill allowing armed teachers right now, and we knew that was coming up, and we knew he was going to sign this. Now, it looks like many of the opposition lawmakers, it looks like they're scurrying off. Many of them have been arrested or slated to be arrested in Venezuela, and it looks like some of them are taking refuge in the Italian embassy in Caracas. And it looks like that whole entire thing is completely falling apart right now. And Guaido Lopez, who is back in jail, that whole thing completely fell apart. And I think Trump knew that this was never going to happen, but allowed Bolton, Pompeo to play this out for optics, because they're going after what they need to go after, and that is Cuba, the deep state, the black sites, and they're keeping everyone away from that. Look over here while we do our real work. The same thing is happening out in Iran. Now, very interestingly, Running the Race decided to tweet out an Annan's decode of the Q watch. Now, we looked at this before, and we know the date is the 19th. Now, we went all the way back to April 19th, where we thought, oh, maybe this would be the 19th when the information comes out. But an Annan looked at this and said, okay, the watch date is the 19th, and the time is 5:10. Think about this for a second. May 10th, 2019. And when you look at this, you could say, okay, maybe it is something, maybe it isn't. But then if we go to post 2681, which we read yesterday, it had in brackets minus 90-day countdown. And this post was posted on February 9th, and 90 days from February 9th is May 10th. Now, this is very interesting. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen on May 10th, because Q sometimes uses this as disinformation. Or we might see something happen on May 19th, but it's very interesting how all this fits. And it seems like that something is definitely going to happen in May, because if we go back to the latest post from Q, it says that May starts the offensive. So it's either going to be today, May 19th, or sometime in May, because all these indicators are leading to the same point. Now, I know when it comes out, we'll go back to these posts and say, oh, now they make complete sense. Or maybe today it will come out and we'll say it makes complete sense, because as we know, Comey, Baker, they're all out there, Downer, and they're trying to get ahead of something, which means the hammer is about to drop. Now, we need to go back to post 520, and I wanted to read a section of this post. Planned for 3 years. Corruption and evil deep within. Everywhere. Patience. There is no escape. There are no deals. Treason at the highest levels. Foreign agents within our government, highest levels. The puppet masters have been removed. All vehicles of delivery removed. Strings cut. 7th floor is no more. FBI SD. We see all, we hear all. The hunt continues. Prison. Death. Gitmo. Red _red. Iron Eagle. And what's very interesting is that Governor Mike Huckabee tweeted out something very interesting today. I don't know if we can confirm this or not, or he was just joking. Most likely it was a joke. Maybe, we don't know. It says rumors are that real Donald Trump will rename Gitmo Comey Island and will use it to house the dirty cops, intel agents, and co-conspirators who used lies to illegally spy on a president, conspiracy, cover-up, and attempted coup. Katie, bar the door. So it is coming. The hammer is about to drop. And you can see how they're all panicking. You can see how they're trying to get ahead of the story. This is how you know it is coming very soon. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.